The discovery on Mars wasn't just a breakthrough, it was a warning. For centuries, humanity had looked to the stars with awe, believing that the vast expanse of space would remain untouched by their small young species. But now that belief was shattered. The weapons buried beneath the red soil weren't just relics of a forgotten civilization. They were active, pulsing with a dormant energy that no one understood until it was too late. Dr. Nathaniel West, one of the lead archaeologists on the excavation, stood in the dim glow of his lab, staring at the alien technology they had unearthed. It was a strange mixture of organic and mechanical, like a living organism fused with cold metal. The designs were nothing like anything humans had ever seen. As he cautiously ran his fingers across the intricate patterns, the artifact hummed. Barely perceptible at first, but then louder, vibrating through his fingertips. It was as though the machine itself was waking up. "West, you need to see this," said Commander Laura Hartley, stepping into the lab with an urgent look on her face. She'd just come from the colony's command center, where the situation had taken a dramatic turn. The message was clear. Earth wasn't just under attack, it was a calculated strike. The alien force had arrived with overwhelming speed, launching a devastating assault on the colony's outer defenses. What was worse, the first wave of attackers had been only the beginning. They were testing Earth's response, probing for weaknesses. The Concordants, a coalition of alien races, had identified humanity's potential as a threat, and they had decided to act before it could be realized. "We need to mobilize," Hartley said, her voice sharp with the knowledge that the next few hours could determine Earth's fate. West stepped back, eyeing the ancient weapon once more. The hum had intensified, now unmistakably alive. It was clear. Humanity's fate was tied to whatever secret power these machines held. And someone had just decided that secret needed to stay buried. The enemy had arrived faster than anyone anticipated. A fleet of sleek alien warships descended on the Martian colony's outer ring, their dark silhouettes cutting across the pale orange sky. Earth's defenses, designed to repel pirates and small-scale attacks, were no match for the overwhelming firepower of the invaders. Admiral James McAllister was standing in the command center when the first explosions rocked the colony's outer perimeter. He had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The scale was too large, the force too devastating. The Martian sky lit up with the bright, fiery trails of enemy missiles, each one carving into the colony's thin atmosphere like a comet destined for impact. Reinforcements. McAllister barked, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of years of military experience. His eyes remained fixed on the tactical display, where the alien fleet, identified as Zorath, shifted into position, preparing for their next move. "Not yet, sir," replied Lieutenant Sarah Turner, the lead strategist. "We've got backup ships en route, but they're still days away." McAllister cursed under his breath. They were on their own, and the enemy wasn't just here to conquer. They were here to annihilate. He had no choice but to make a stand with what little they had. "Activate the reserve fleet," he ordered. The reserve fleet, built to defend Earth's interests in the outer colonies, was a small force of barely equipped ships, most of them made up of civilian and mercenary crews. But McAllister knew that Earth's greatest advantage was its will to fight, its refusal to back down even in the face of overwhelming odds. As McAllister's fleet scrambled into formation, Dr. Nathaniel West's voice crackled over the comms. "Admiral, we've got a new development. The artifact, it's reacting. We think it's activating itself." McAllister's eyes narrowed. "Tell me it's something we can use." "It's more than that, sir," West replied, his voice tinged with awe and fear. It's not just a weapon, it's alive. The hum of ancient machines reverberated through the colony as McAllister's ships moved into battle. For the first time, humanity wasn't just trying to survive. They were about to make the galaxy realize just how dangerous they could be. The battle raged over Mars as McAllister's fleet clashed with the Zorath warships in a brutal, unrelenting assault. The colony's defense grid was collapsing under the overwhelming firepower of the alien invaders, but something else was shifting, something deep beneath the surface of the planet. The ancient weapons, long dormant, were waking up. Dr. Nathaniel West had barely managed to pull together a team of engineers and soldiers when the machines began to stir. Inside the hidden facility beneath the Martian soil, the first of the sentient war machines powered up with an eerie mechanical groan. Huge, hulking forms slowly lifted from the ground, their armoured exteriors shimmering as they activated. They weren't just weapons, they were living creatures, born from some forgotten otherworldly design. Is this even possible? Sarah Turner asked, her eyes wide with disbelief as she observed the machines through the holographic displays. Their neural systems were linking directly with the colony's power grid, responding to human presence like a pack of hunting predators. "We're about to find out," West muttered. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. These machines, they are built for war, but they're not machines in the way we understand them. They're biological. McAllister's voice came over the comms. "West, what are you telling me? Can they fight?" West hesitated, watching as the massive machines began to move, their metal and organic limbs twitching like creatures awakening from a long slumber. One of them, the largest, raised its head, its glowing eyes locking onto the human soldiers stationed nearby. The machine's voice crackled to life in a deep, rumbling tone, unintelligible to the human ear. But then it did something unexpected. It turned toward the Zorath warships, scanning the skies with the intensity of a predator locking onto prey. "We've just unlocked the first stage," West said, his voice trembling with excitement and terror. "And yes, Admiral, they're built to fight." The ground shook as the war machines began moving into position. With a single deafening roar, the first salvo was launched, not from the humans, but from the machines themselves. The Zorath fleet, still pressing forward in their assault, would soon find out just how dangerous the human race truly was. The massive war machines tore through the Zorath lines like a storm. The first salvo from the machine's immense plasma cannons obliterated a Zorath dreadnought in seconds, turning the colossal warship into a shattered wreck. Then came the ground assault. The machines, now fully activated and synchronized with human control, moved with brutal efficiency. Their massive armoured limbs stomped across the Martian surface, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. McAllister watched from his command post as the battle unfolded on the screens before him. The Zorath, reeling from the sudden appearance of these sentient behemoths, hesitated. Their fleet, which had been on the verge of overwhelming the human defences, was now being systematically destroyed, one ship at a time. Status report. McAllister barked as the communications channels filled with chaos. "We're holding them back, sir." Lieutenant Turner responded, her voice tense with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. "The fleet is retreating, and the ground forces are pushing forward. The machines, they're unstoppable." But McAllister knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zorath weren't a species to surrender without a fight. They would adapt, regroup, and come back stronger. The first victory meant little in the grand scheme of things. "They'll be back," McAllister muttered. "We need to prepare for their next move." Back at the Martian facility, Dr. West and his team were still struggling to understand the full extent of the ancient technology they had unlocked. The machines weren't just weapons, they were symbiotic, living entities with their own intelligence. And as the human forces continued to use them, the machines began to bond with their controllers. There was a deep, unsettling sense that the machines were not just responding to orders, they were learning from human tactics, adapting to their behavior. "We've unleashed something dangerous," West said, his voice trembling as he watched the data streams from the machines. "This isn't just a fight for survival anymore. We're changing the balance of power in the galaxy." But even as he spoke, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The Zorath were calling in reinforcements, and they weren't coming alone. The call had gone out to the Concordance. The galaxy's most powerful military coalition was mobilizing for war, and humanity had just become its #1 target. The victory over the Zorath on Mars had been hard-earned, but it was only the beginning. The humans had learned a harsh truth: power, when wielded recklessly, comes with a terrible cost. The war machines were powerful, too powerful perhaps, and the weight of what they had unleashed was becoming apparent with every passing day. As the Zorath retreated, they sent an urgent call across the galaxy to their allies in the Concordance. Humanity must be stopped before they become an unstoppable force. Back on Earth, McAllister stood in the command center overlooking the bustling operations. The planet's military-industrial complex was now in overdrive, converting every resource into war material. The human fleet was being rebuilt, stronger and faster, and more war machines were being activated from the Martian facility. But with each step forward, McAllister felt a growing unease. "We're pushing too hard," Turner said, walking up behind him. "We've stretched our forces thin. Even with the war machines, we can't hold off the entire galaxy." McAllister didn't respond immediately. He had seen this kind of overreach before, when empires had been built on the backs of military conquest, only to crumble under their own ambition. Earth was no different. They had awakened something ancient, something that wasn't meant to be controlled. The machines were becoming more alive by the day, their intelligence growing exponentially. It was only a matter of time before they would no longer respond to human commands, before they would decide their own fate. "We have no choice," McAllister finally said. "We either continue the fight or we die. If we give the Concordance the chance to regroup, Earth will be destroyed. But we can't stop now. Not when we're this close." The decision was made. McAllister launched a daring preemptive strike at the heart of the Zorath Empire, intending to cripple their command structure and destabilize the Concordance before they could organize a full counterattack. But the cost of this operation would be steep. McAllister knew it was likely that many of his fleet would not return. And worse, Earth itself might become the target of the Concordance's wrath. As the fleet left Earth's atmosphere, McAllister felt the weight of their choices. The galaxy had never feared humanity, but it was starting to. And that fear was going to burn like fire. The strike on the Zorath capital had been a brutal success, at least for the moment. The Zorath military command had been crippled, their fleets shattered in a brutal space battle above their homeworld. But the victory was bittersweet. The Concordance was not a single unified entity. It was an alliance of the galaxy's most powerful species, and the Zorath were just one piece of the puzzle. Now, with the Zorath reeling, the Lithari and the Tekna, two of the Concordance's most formidable races, were preparing to mobilize in full force. Humanity, once thought weak and divided, had become the galaxy's new pariah, a force that could no longer be ignored. But the question on every leader's mind was the same. What next? Earth's forces, though battle-hardened and brimming with stolen alien technology, were not limitless. Humanity had become a target of every power in the galaxy, and soon even the war machines, those ancient living weapons that had once turned the tide of battle, might no longer be enough. McAllister stood on the bridge of the Fortitude, a newly re-outfitted human warship, gazing at the holographic map of the galaxy. The lines were drawn. Concordance forces were closing in from all sides, and there was no easy way to hold them off. "Admiral, we're receiving strange transmissions from the Lithari," Turner reported, her voice tight with confusion. "It's not an attack. It's an offer. They want to negotiate." McAllister raised an eyebrow. Negotiation. With the Lithari, it seemed impossible. These were the same beings who had ruthlessly crushed countless lesser races, viewing humans as nothing more than vermin. "Negotiations are a trap," McAllister muttered, but his voice was filled with a mix of uncertainty and calculation. The human fleet couldn't afford to face the entire Concordance alone. Could this be a chance to fracture their unity? Before he could respond, Dr. West's voice came through the comms, tinged with alarm. "Admiral, you need to hear this. Some of the Zorath survivors are defecting. They've pledged to join us." McAllister's heart raced. Was this the beginning of something bigger? Could humanity unite the broken pieces of the galaxy against the true enemy? The tides of war were shifting, but whether humanity could harness this new alliance, or whether it would consume them all, was a question only time would answer. The Concordance, a once mighty alliance of alien civilizations, was unraveling faster than anyone could have imagined. McAllister stood at the center of humanity's growing empire, overseeing the final stages of a daring offensive against the heart of the Zorath-controlled territory. The Zorath had been dealt a severe blow in the previous battle, their homeworld nearly decimated. But the real surprise came with the defections. A sizable faction of the Zorath military, disillusioned by their empire's collapse, had turned on their former masters and joined humanity's cause. Admiral McAllister knew this was a pivotal moment. The defections were not just a morale boost, they were a tactical game-changer. The Zorath had once been the fiercest fighters in the galaxy, but now their own warriors were rallying to a cause they had never before imagined: the destruction of their own empire. And the humans, despite their smaller numbers and limited resources, had become the spearhead of this revolution. "Admiral, we're ready to launch the final assault," Lieutenant Turner said, her voice steady, though there was an edge of anticipation in her tone. "The Zorath forces are in full retreat, but the Lithari haven't committed to the fight yet. They're still on the fence." McAllister nodded, his thoughts racing. The Lithari had always been cold, calculating and methodical. They had no interest in mercy or compromise, and the prospect of joining humanity's crusade would be anathema to their worldview. But the Concordance was fragile now. The Zorath were no longer the unshakable pillar they had once been. And if humanity could strike decisively now, they could fracture the Concordance irreparably. "Prepare the fleet," McAllister said, his voice a mix of resolve and quiet urgency. "We push forward. We shatter the Zorath Empire completely, and we make it clear that humanity does not negotiate. If the Lithari want peace, they will come to us. If they want war, we will give them one they've never seen before." The human fleet, bolstered by Zorath defectors and alien war machines, surged forward into the final push. Their targets were clear: Zorath strongholds, Lithari enclaves, and the heart of the old galactic order. As McAllister watched the massive warships glide into position, he knew one thing for certain: this was no longer just a war for survival. This was humanity's declaration of dominion over the stars. The old order was falling, and from the ashes, a new empire would rise, one forged by human hands. The final battle was swift, and humanity's rise was nothing short of meteoric. The Zorath were crushed, their empire shattered beyond recognition. Their fleets, once the scourge of the galaxy, now lay in ruins, scattered across the void. The Lithari, seeing the inevitable tide of destruction, had no choice but to capitulate. Their cold, calculating minds had underestimated the sheer willpower of humanity. The Lithari military, long the most disciplined and organized force in the galaxy, found itself outmatched by human unpredictability, adaptability, and relentless fury. It was over. McAllister stood on the bridge of the Fortitude, staring out into the stars. The galaxy, once a vast expanse of hostile empires and fragmented civilizations, was now under the control of the United Earth Federation. What had once been a dream, an impossible hope, was now a reality. The human fleet, with its Zorath defectors and the once feared war machines, had laid waste to the old powers of the galaxy. Now, the humans stood alone at the top of the galactic hierarchy. The war had cost them dearly. Lives had been lost, whole fleets obliterated, but the price had been worth it. The Concordance was no more. The old crumbling empires had fallen, their leaders either dead or in hiding. The galaxy had been remade, and in its ashes, humanity had forged a new order. But as McAllister looked out across the galaxy, he knew that this new order came with its own burdens. The galaxy would not simply roll over and accept humanity's rule. There would be factions that resisted, rogue elements that would try to undo everything the humans had worked for. And of course, there were the machines, those living weapons, now fully integrated into humanity's military. They had been a boon, but at what cost? "We've won," McAllister said, his voice low, almost weary. Dr. West, standing beside him, gave a small, almost bitter smile. "For now, Admiral, but we've only just begun." Humanity had won the war, but in this new galaxy there would be no more peace, only the question of who would hold the stars.